Okay, so in the last lecture we studied about crystal field theory and the splitting of the degeneracy of d orbitals in the various crystal fields, namely octahedron, tetrahedron, square planar, and we also saw a glimpse of what it looks like in the other geometries. And we discussed the factors that affects the this splitting, right? The magnitude of this splitting, that is delta, and we found out that it is important, most important point that is that affects the delta is its geometry, that is the number of ligands around it, and we also saw that the charge on the metal ion, that is the central metal ion, also affects it, and two other factors that are the nature of the ligands, that is the spectrochemical series, and the nature of the metal itself. That is, if we go from top to down in a group, right, the crystal splitting increases. And this point, particularly this point, it was I think point number 3 there, that when you go from 3D transition to 4D to 5D, the splitting increases. Right. This will also will be a point of discussion today, while when we discuss the electronic configuration of the transition metal ions and their magnetic properties. Right. In electronic configuration means it may be misleading that electronic configuration means that just electronic configuration as we studied in periodic properties. It's not that. The electronic configuration in the complex itself, right? And we'll just discuss the magnetic properties. So not exactly the magnetic properties, is it paramagnetic or diamagnetic, and if it is paramagnetic, what will be the magnitude, right? So we'll discuss all these points here. Okay, so before going into that, one more term I would like to introduce, that is pairing energy. Now, what is pairing energy? Pairing energy is called that in an orbital, right? Suppose say S or P, whatever it is, right? S, or suppose say we have 3 P's here. If you have suppose a carbon, right? So it is like this for carbon. For nitrogen, one more electron comes here. Now for oxygen, you have to have a pair. Right? Now pairing energy is that energy that is required to put two negatively charged electrons in a single orbital, because there is an electron-electron repulsion. Right? Electron-electron repulsion is there. So this is the main origin of this pairing energy. So to pair up one electron in an orbital, the system has to expend some energy on it. Right? And obviously, if you do not pair up, so the system will be gaining that energy. Right? So this will be needing when we discuss this electronic configuration of these transition metals in their complexes. Right? Suppose we have say, okay, let us first discuss this one. Suppose in an octahedral field, crystal field, it is splitted. The d orbitals, energies of the d orbital is splitted like this, and these levels is what? T to G, T stands for triplet, G for Faraday, and this is E, G level. Right? Now, this is our delta. Right? Now see, there. Okay, let me draw another one. Now suppose this is higher one. This is a bit higher. This Eg now. That means this delta. Suppose say this is delta 1. This is say delta 2, and we say that delta 2 is greater than delta 1. Suppose there are two situations. Now, and again, suppose the energy required for this pairing be P. Right? If it is P here, right, and let us say that P is greater than delta 1, but P is less than delta 2. Now, if there are, say, one electron is there, right? Now, in case of this delta 1, this P, the pairing energy is larger than the splitting. Right? Then what will happen? Now, if you want to, suppose there are already 3 electrons here, right? Now, a 4th electron comes here. The 4th electron, where it would go? Will it occupy Eg or will it occupy T2G? That is our topic of discussion today. Right? The 4th electron has 2 choices. It can go to the Eg level or it can pair up in one of the orbital in T2G level. Now, that choice will depend on these conditions. In the first case, if the pairing energy is higher than delta 1, then why the electron or the system would expand, right? Why it would like to pair rather than it will expend more energy, this delta 1 energy and go in the Eg level, because in that case the system will be less energetic, right? It will be lower in energy by this amount, at least P minus delta 1. But in the second case, where P is less than delta, right? Now, if the electron wants to go to the Eg level, it will expend more energy than pairing up, right? So, instead of going to the Eg level, the electron would like to pair up. It will pair up here, right? Because that will, by that it had to shell out less energy, right? So, this will be more stable in this case if pairing energy is less than delta, right? Keeping this in mind, let us do one by one. Suppose D1 and D2, right? See, the picture I have drawn here, it is already drawn here. On the left hand side of the panels, these are the strong fields. What are strong fields? Means delta is large, right? Whereas these are weak fields. Suppose they are of halide ions, chloride, fluoride, bromide, this kind of ion or ligands, right? And suppose these are the cyanide, carbon monoxide, this type of ligands. So these are the strong fields and these are weak fields. So in these cases, what is there? This we have delta greater than P and delta. There is delta less than pairing energy. But in this D1 and D2 case, this does not matter, right? B delta is less than pairing energy or more than pairing energy. These would not matter because there is no chance of pairing in these two cases, right? Because there is only single electron in D1 case and only 2 electrons. By Hund's rule, it will occupy only T2G orbital because this is already lower in energy, and they will not pair up unless all the energies, all the orbitals of the same energy are filled. So in these two cases there is no confusion, and the electronic configuration we can easily write T2G1 EG0, right? Here T2G2 EG0, right? Be it strong field or weak field. Similar is the case with D3, right? Because there was 3 electrons in the C3 orbitals that were in the same energy. So here also it is same case. So there is no choice. The only configuration possible is this one, right? Okay. By the way, all these configurations are ground state electronic configuration, right? Ground state electronic configuration, right? But the picture will change if you have this when you excite them, right? But we will not discuss it here. Let us first discuss this all D configurations. But the next one, D4, that we just discussed. Now we have a choice. Right? We already discussed this in the previous slide, that if the delta is greater than pairing energy, right, then this will occur. It will pair up. That is, in strong field we will pair up, and in weak field, that whereas delta is lower than pairing energy, it will be unpaired. Right? So in this case, it will be T2G3 EG1, whereas in this case it will be T2G4 EG0. Okay, so this is our configurations, possible configurations. Now for D4, it starts. For D1, D2, D3, there are no choices, only one choice. It will be only unpaired electrons. For D4, there are two choices. When two choices comes, we can name it differently, right? This choice where there is maximum number of unpaired electrons, this is called high spin. And where do high spin occur? High spin occurs in weak field, whereas here where there is pairing of electrons, right, this is called low spin. So low spin complexes occur in strong field, right? Okay, now let us see the next one. Okay, so this I think I have already discussed all this. So this is the case where pairing energy is less than delta, and this is where pairing energy is higher than delta, right? So see the next one, the fifth electron. Right? Fifth electron also, there are two choices. Now one can go here, right? Pairing energy less than delta and pairing energy greater than delta, right? So this is our high spin. So abbreviated form, it is HS, and this is our low spin, right? And this configuration will be T2G3 EG2, whereas this one will be T2G5 EG0, right? Okay, now where the next one, that is D6. D6 will also have same type of choices. Okay, sorry, so it got obscured here, but you can, I think you can see in the high spin we have unpaired electrons, right? So all the 5 electrons, and then one is pairing up. So now the electronic configuration here will be T2G. How many electrons in T2G? Sorry, T2G, there are 4 electrons. So T2G4 EG2, right? See, from D5 to D6, let us first consider the high spin, right? Here the high spin complex, see the fifth electron of course go again to the T2G level, because there is no other choice. In all the orbitals you have to pair, so better pair it in the T2G level because it is lower in energy. Okay, so that is done here. But in the strong field case, so the low spin complex, see, there is no unpaired electron, 0 unpaired electron. UE stands for unpaired electron. So 0 unpaired electron in this case, right? Because all are paired. So this is T2G6 EG0. So all are paired in D6. Okay. Now see, in D7, what happens? D7, of course, the next electron goes here, right, in the T2G level for high spin complex. So high spin complex becomes T2G5 EG2, whereas now this must go up here. There is no other place. However high the delta is, that 7th electron must go to the EG level, because there is no place in T2G left, because it is already filled. T2G6 EG1, right? So here we have now one electron in the EG level for the first time in low spin complexes, right? That is strong field. So For the strong field, D7 is the first configuration where we have one electron in the Eg level. Okay. Now see, there are again no choices left. For D8, right, the 8th electron of course goes to the T2G level, making it T2G6. Now all are paired up here, no unpaired electron in T2G level and Eg2, and the 8th electron in the strong field case, now it goes here in the Eg level. The only one was left here, right? So it goes here, making it T2G6 Eg2. So the configuration is same for D8, be it high spin, be it is strong field ligand or weak field ligand, right? Whatever be the magnitude of delta, the configuration of D8 will be same. It does not have any choice, right? And again for D9, see, there is again no choice, because both the in both cases the 9th electron goes to the Eg level, because there is no place in the T2G level, right? So there is one electron, one unpaired electron each. So this is the only possibility. Okay. And D10, there is no unpaired electron, on all the electrons are filled up, right? So there is of course no choice. Okay. So these are our conditions, right? So in high spin and low versus low spin, if you say so only D4, D5, D6 and D7, these are the configurations that is affected by this strong field ligand and weak field ligands. The other configurations, that are D1, D2, D3 or D8, D9, D10, is independent of the magnitude of the crystal field, right, in octahedral field. Okay, this discussion is for octahedral field. You can similarly try to do the exercises for tetrahedral field, right? Okay, so for octahedral field only these configurations are affected by the strength of the crystal field. Okay, and these are the possible configurations that are shown here. Now what are the effects? So if we put it all together from the gaseous atom states, right, suppose this was iron, right, this is D5 system, suppose this is iron 3 plus, right, D5. So in the gaseous state all was degenerate, right, this was degenerate, right? Now in the octahedral field, but weak field, right, so just water is there, so it is high spin. See, this is a high spin complex, all are unpaired. But in that solution, if you put say potassium cyanide, if you add here potassium cyanide or just cyanide, sodium cyanide, whatever, you can just furnish cyanide ion. As soon as you do that, cyanide being in the very strong field ligand, what it does, it produces a strong crystal field now, right? See, and where this delta is much higher than the pairing energy, and as such these electrons are now paired, giving rise to a low spin complex with only one unpaired electron. Here there are 5 unpaired electrons, right? Here there is only one unpaired electron. Okay, but the electronic configuration, I mean the number of d electrons remaining same. So in this case the electronic configuration would be T2G3 Eg2, whereas in this case it will be T2G5 Eg0, right? So you have to remember the nature of the ligand, and consequently you can do the electronic configurations depending on the metal ion. Okay, so this was our discussion regarding the electronic configuration of transition metal ions in complexes, and namely we studied here today the octahedral complexes. Now one thing I mentioned in the last lecture, that is crystal field stabilization energy, or in short it is called CFSE. What is crystal field stabilization energy, right? Mathematically, it can be expressed by this expression. See, what is this? Negative, that is minus Nt2g multiplied by 0.4 of delta oct, right? So that splitting, plus Neg multiplied by 0.6 of delta oct. What does this mean? What is Nt2g? Nt2g is the number of electrons in the T2g level, whereas Neg is the number of electron in the Eg level. So this is how we can calculate the CFSE, crystal field stabilization energy. Let us see the table, then it will be much more clear to us. See, for D1, the electronic configuration is T2G1 Eg0. So if you put this in this equation, what do you get? 1 multiplied by 0.4 plus, now this part becomes 0. So 1 multiplied by 0.4 is 0.4, and there is a minus 1 here. So it is minus 0.4 delta oct, means for octahedral field, right? So this is this stabilization energy. So the D1 system gains stability by this much. Minus means it is gaining, right? So it is, if the D1 electron, I mean the D1 metal ion was just free metal ion and nothing, no ligand was there, compared to it, I mean this, from this form, right? It was like this. Compared to this, it has gained this much of energy while it formed a complex, right? So this is the our crystal field stabilization energy. Similarly, T2G is 0 for D2. So 2 electrons here, right? Again 0 in the Eg level. So 2 into 0.4, that is 0.8, minus 0.8. D3, they again no choice, only high spin or low spin doesn't matter for D3. So all 3 electrons in T2G, so 3 into 0.4, that is minus 1.2. So up to this there was no choices. Our choice starts from D4. We have already seen D4, D5, D6, D7. Right? This is our point of concern. Okay. See, now we have 2 choices. First one, let us see for high spin complex, that is T2G3 Eg1. Now 1 in Eg, so you have to add 0.6. If you add 0.6 to minus 1.2, then you end up with minus 0.6. So this is our CFSE now. But if it is low spin, that is strong field, all the 4 electrons are in T2G, right? So it will be 4 multiplied by 0.4, so it is minus 1.6. Now, but there is a pairing, so you have to add this energy, right? This is destabilizing, so you are adding up 1p, that is pairing energy. Similar is the case with D5. Now D5 is interesting because D5 high spin, you see all the stabilities are cancelling out each other, stability and destability, and you have 0 CFSE. So D5 high spin have 0 CFSE, right? This you have to remember that D5, if there are 5d electron and there is weak field ligand is present, as the example we saw in case of iron and water, right? And so it will be high spin and it will have 0 CFSE. And but for low field, for strong field ligand, that is low spin, right? All the 5 electrons are in now T2G level, and we will have minus 2 delta oct as stabilizing energy, but there is now 2 pairing cases, so that means you have to add up 2p. Okay, so this will be your total CFSE for D5 in strong field case. In D6, also same thing occurs, right? You have just 0.4 here because you are again starting. See, these values are same as D1. The D6 CFSE and D6 in high spin, that is weak field, and D1 have the same CFSE. Same is with D7 and D2, because all the 5 are cancelling out each other, then you start again 1, 2 like this, right? So these things are same as these three, first three, right? The high spin of these cases are same as 1, 2, 3, but for the low spin you have different things, you have different energies. So by this you can see that again for D8, D9 and D10 we said that there is no more choices, and so is the case. So be it high field or strong field, or high spin or low spin, right? Whatever be the case, these D8, D9, D10 will have only this much, right? And why you are not putting the P energy here, plus P? Because it does not matter, because the low spin case or weak strong field case, in both cases you are putting the pairing energy. So comparing to that, we are not putting the pairing energy anymore, because pairing is inevitable there. You have to pair up energy there, right? So that's why we are not putting the plus P here in these cases. There is no other choice. You have to pair it up. That's why you are not putting it here. Okay, now looking at a glance, you can clearly see the highest CFSE is possible for a metal ligand system is this one. If it is D6 low spin, right? D6 low spin has the highest CFSE. See, minus 0.24 plus 2P. Why 2P? You may argue that why not 3P, right? Because 3 of them are pairing. Because this is in comparing with, if you compare it with D6 high spin. So in D6 high spin, what you have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and again one pairing. So it will be minus 0.4 plus P, right? And here this would be in D6 low spin would be what? Minus 2.4 plus 3P, right? Because the pairing is 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So this 1P we are not writing here, right? So we are not writing 1P here, and we are not writing 1P less here. That's why we are writing 2P here. So that's why it is 2P here, and only 1P here, compared to the D7 there are 2Ps here. In high spin also there are 2Ps. That's why we are putting 2P and 1P and 0Ps here, right? Hope this is clear. So highest CFSE is obtained for low spin D6, right? This you have to remember, right? And you see for D10 there is zeros in both cases, high spin or low. There is no high spin low spin case. There is only strong field weak field case. But whatever be the strong field and weak field, the CFSE will be 0 for D10. Now in the last class, a question might have arisen that how will you know that the compound will be, the complex will be going towards tetrahedral or octahedral or square planar, right? Now the system will try to have highest CFSE first of all, right? So it will look to go towards high CFSE first. Second is, if there is no CFSE available, right? So if there is no CFSE available in any cases, see D10 we have calculated it for octahedron, right? In tetrahedron also, so it will be like this. For tetrahedron also, D10 will have 0 CFSE in tetrahedron, right? In tetrahedron also, D10 will have 0 CFSE, right? Because there is no unpaired electrons, I mean available there, right? So D10 there is nothing to make upon the choice on higher splitting or lower splitting. So D10 prefers tetrahedral geometry. Why? See, in octahedral geometry, it has to accommodate, the metal ion has to accommodate 6 ligands, right? So there is repulsion, more bulk, more steric hindrance, whereas in tetrahedron it has to accommodate only 4. So D10 metal ions think that it is better to go for 4 ligands, because it will not gain anything if it goes to octahedron, right? All the gains are 0 here. So zinc, you know, zinc is D10 system, right? Zinc 2 plus is D10, right? And these actually forms tetrahedral complexes. Right? So in many of the enzymes what we have in our body, like carboxyanhydrase, carboxypeptidase, all these things, right? Zinc is present in more than 100 enzymes in our body, and in all of them, if I am not mistaken, right, if not all, I think more than 99% of them, it is what they are, the zinc site, the zinc metal ion is tetrahedral in nature. Okay, that is because it has 0 CFSE. Okay, now let us go towards this magnetic properties. Now magnetic properties of magnetic properties of complexes or magnetochemistry itself is a vast subject in itself, right? We are not going into it. We will just touch the tip of the, not even the tip of the iceberg, I think, right? That what is diamagnetic and paramagnetic, and how paramagnetism is calculated for transition metal complexes. Now diamagnetic or complexes are those or substances, you know, where there is no increase in the magnetic flux or lines of force inside it, right? There is no concentration of it. So very small repulsive interaction with the external magnetic field, and these are caused if the complex have no unpaired electron. So if there are no unpaired electron, we can say they are diamagnetic, and if there is one or more than one unpaired electron, we say it is paramagnetic. That means there is an attractive interaction between external magnetic field. Okay. Now this spin only paramagnetic formula is very handy for calculating instantaneously or in good approximation, I can say, for at least the first transition elements, right? This spin only formula holds good. For what? What is this spin only formula? This mu s. What is mu s? Mu s is in Bohr magneton, the magnetic moment. Right? Magnetic moment of that complex is given by in the unit of Bm. Bm means Bohr magneton, right? And that Bohr magneton is a value of this one in Joule per Tesla. Okay. Now this is given by root over n into n plus 2, where n is the number of unpaired electrons as written here, right? Root over n into n plus 2. Now you can easily calculate if the metal system given there, and what you need to know, the metal system and the ligand field, if it is strong field or weak field. By that we can find out this thing, right? Suppose here the electronic configurations are given, right? So say titanium 3 plus is D1 system, right? This is D1, of course there is no other choice, and for these things D2, D3, these are D4 and D5, but they are what, high spin, that is low field ligand is present there, right? Now see, for this one it will be root over of 1 into 1 plus 2, that is root over of 3, root 3. So this is our value here. And what is this S? See, capital S is there. This is the spin Spin means if there is one unpaired electron, one electron has half spin, so this is the half spin. If there are two spin, you add up half plus half, you get 1, right? That's what this is the adding up of spin, right? Okay, now from this also, these calculations, see, these are calculated values, I mean that formula from that root over n into n plus 2 formula, and these are the experimental values found. See, these are in good agreement, right? This one very good agreement, right? For first transition series, of course they are good, but for the second transition series there are difficulties with this formula, because there are several other contributions. See, these magnetic moments are include contributions from both spin and orbital spin, right? Spin means from electron spin and orbital spin. Just so for the first transition series, this orbital contribution can be generally be ignored, but for the later transition series they cannot be ignored, right? That's why this spin only formula does not holds good for the later transition series, right? Because there is something called spin orbit coupling. Spin orbit coupling. So this we cannot go into details here. So we'll stop our discussions regarding our crystal field theory about of transition metals and our specifically our discussion of today, that is electronic configuration and the magnetic properties, right? So in the next class we will deal with solid state theory, sorry, right? Solid state and that some features of our semiconductors, N type, P type, most of things are already introduced to you, but we will see some more features in the next class about solid state and semiconductors.